Everybody? I'd like to welcome you all to the Global UGRAD Google Plus Hangout. This Hangout was intended for all of the fall participants. This is a great resource just to let students voice some questions they may have about the Global UGRAD program, and a great opportunity to get to meet the staff here in Washington at World Learning. So just to get started, we wanted to take this opportunity just to introduce ourselves. So I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Will O'Rourke. I'm a program officer with students from Eurasia and Central Asia. I work with Kedron Sampson. Unfortunately, she's not in today, but she sends her best, and you will get an opportunity to meet her later on.
And I'm Amy Fisher-Brewy. I'm the Global UGRAD Program Manager, and I also work with the students from the Middle East. And my colleague, Clara Akbor-Tabi, is not here today, but she also sends her best.
Hi, my name is Roya Zahed, and I'm a program officer working with students from East Asia and the Pacific and South Asia.
Hi, my name is Lauren Perino, and I'm a program associate working with Roya with students from East Asia and the Pacific and South Asia.
So there are 4 people missing today. The 2 that are probably who you're most excited to see, Bethany and Chris. Bethany is the program officer for the Western Hemisphere and Sub-Saharan Africa, and Chris Sluter works with her for the students from the Western Hemisphere. Unfortunately, neither of them were able to make it in today, but don't worry, we got you. So the purpose of today's Hangout, like Will said, is to answer any of your questions that you have about the program. But before we get started, we'll just give you kind of an overview. By now, you've done lots of application stuff. You've maybe had your pre-departure orientation with your embassy. You're doing OPAL right now. So you guys are in the program. You guys are in the Facebook group. You're following us on Twitter. You've seen the Tumblr page. You know what's happening. But just in case you don't, this is the Global UGRAD program sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. There are about 60 countries that participate in the program every year, about 250 students. So it's 60 countries, 250 students that then come to the U.S. for a semester and go to about 72, 74 universities. So there's a lot of you. I know some of you are probably like, oh, well, there's only 1 or 2 from our country. You're right, but you're very, very special from your country because there are also very, very special students from those other 60 countries who will be coming in either the fall or the spring semester this year. We invited only the fall participants or the students coming for English language training. Basically, anyone who's coming in August, we invited them to these Google Plus Hangouts. We will have another Google Plus session in November for the participants coming in the spring. Let's see, other big things to tell you. I see everyone is already using this question and answer box on the right, which is really exciting. We thought we'd also just mention some of the big components of the Global UGRAD program are leadership, academic excellence, and community service. So leadership, you're going to have so many opportunities to develop your own leadership skills. Hopefully you're starting to do that with OPAL already. Being in the US and being really independent is going to be a big change for you guys. And I think the US university life is very unique. So we're here to answer all those questions. Academic excellence. We ask that each of you maintain a 2.0 GPA while you're in the United States, and that's on a 4-point scale. So 4 is an A, 3 is a B, 2 is a C, 1 is a D, 0 is an F. We don't want to talk about those lower ones because we know that you will all do really, really well. You were selected for this program because of how smart you are and how committed you are, so just keep it up while you're in the US. And then maybe the most fun part of the program is the community service component. So while you're here, each of you will do 20 hours of community service. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions about community service as we go, so I'll just kind of let those pop up. Trying to think of any other big things I've missed. That's kind of like the overview of the program. Our role, these 4 people you see here, and then the 4 imaginary people that we talked about, Our role is to implement the program on behalf of the Department of State and be an extra support system for you while you're in the United States. So you can think of us as mentors, supports, friends, like one step removed. I don't know, that sounds funny. But we're here to like answer any of those questions that you're like, I really just don't get it. Or I'm feeling really uncomfortable, or I'm really struggling in this class. We are your safe space. And each of us have lived abroad at some point, so we can commiserate with what you're going through when you come to start studying. With that, do we have any questions that we want to get started with? I can't read this at all.
I know, I think I can. We have a lot of questions going, so that's great. I'm just going to start reading from the ones that look like they're really popular. So if you see a question that's listed that you also wanted to ask, if you can just hit the plus sign next to it, it pops up to the top, and we'll go from there. The first question that we're going to answer says, how should we register for our courses? What's the process? I can take that one. So course registration for your classes when you're in the US, it really depends on different universities. Some of you might have already been contacted by your US host institutions, others haven't. If you have been contacted with them, continue to email back and forth with your academic advisor on campus to figure out your schedule. For you that are coming for ELT, English Language Training, sometimes you don't even have to select your courses. Those courses might be selected for you, as that's an intensive English language program. So they've kind of already set up your semester for you. For those of you who haven't heard from your academic advisors and are here for the fall semester and are kind of getting itchy, wanting to really know like how the course registration process works, you can reach out to your World Learning Program advisors, your team there, and we can help connect you to the right people as is needed. Our email addresses are all listed on the OPAL, what's it called, syllabus. So that's a way to reach us. But if you haven't been contacted by a university, one thing you would say is don't worry about it. It's okay. Once you get on campus, you'll be sitting down with your academic advisor and really establishing what your schedule is going to look like for the rest of the semester. Classes might seem to be full when you arrive, but what we're all familiar with in the US academic system, even American students, when they sign up for courses, the first week or two of classes, you're just trying things out. So people are adding classes, dropping classes, there's a lot of movement. So you might not have your finalized schedule until a week or two into the semester. Remember that you need to have, if you're in English language training, it's a little bit different, but if you're here for academics in the fall, you should have at least half of your classes from your major. You also have to have a US studies course, which it looks like there are some questions about, and we'll talk about that later. So that's a very long answer to your question.
And just to add on to that, once you arrive, we will do a virtual arrival orientation with you and all of the other Global UGRAD students at your host university. And we will talk about the process by which you have to have your classes approved by World Learning. It's all really simple, but we just need you to do it.
Awesome. And speaking of which, actually, we have a question here about what counts as an American Studies or what counts as a US Studies course. Anybody want to take that?
I can take that one.
Sure.
So examples of an American Studies course would be a course about American history, a course about jazz music. There's a lot of different types of courses that you can take that would count as American Studies courses. And a good way to figure out if they would fit the American course requirement is reading the course description. And if it mentions America, the United States in that course description, there's a pretty good chance it will match that requirement. But it can be, even in art class, American art, there's a lot of choices.
There is a question here that's going to be a hot question, I know. They're wondering about when they'll receive information about their arrival, their flights, all the things needed about a smooth trip to the US.
That's a fantastic question. You will be receiving flight information and arrival information very shortly. Actually, right now, we are currently working on flight information for students who will be arriving in the next 2 weeks. So just hold tight. We are certainly going to make sure that we've got everything confirmed for you, and we are going to pass along that information. as well as all of our contact information. So you've got someone to talk to, or just get in contact with if there is any emergencies.
Yeah. Also, you'll be receiving what's called an arrival email a week to 2 weeks before you depart your home country. So be sure to be checking your email. In the U.S., especially around with college students, emails are the biggest way that we're going to be contacting you. So make sure that you're looking in your inbox 1 week to 2 weeks before you leave your home country. Look for that email called arrival email from World Learning. It'll have your flight. It will have our contact information. It'll let you know who's picking you up from the airport and taking you to campus, all the really important things that might sound stressful to you right now, but it's in our hands, we're taking care of it, and we'll let you know that. This question seems to always come up. When are you expected to go to Washington, D.C. is the question.
So one of our favorite parts of the program is the end of program workshop, which will happen for the students who are here just for the fall semester. That will be in November this year. And if you're here for English language training and then transitioning to academics, that will be in probably March or April next year. We don't have the dates for that one set yet. Yeah, so you'll come to Washington, D.C. for about 4 days in November.
Cool. We have a good question here that's asking, how do I make the most out of my stipend? This might be a good time for us to also talk about when you get your stipend and how much it is. Does anybody want to take that on?
I can do the money stuff too.
Yeah, okay.
But then I'll be quiet for a little while. So your finances while you're here are pretty simple. World Learning is going to pay for your tuition, your housing, your meal plan, all that stuff. But when you arrive and we do that virtual arrival orientation, we're going to go over a whole bunch of paperwork that's in a big folder. And in that folder will be your first check. And that check will have your settling in allowance, which is $100, your stipend, which is $300, and your book allowance, which you get about $250 for academic books. In general, you will receive your stipend the first of every month. So when you get that first check, it's going to include your stipend for part of August and all of September. So you will get another check October 1st. And I think, I'm going to speak for everyone at this table, I think all of us think that $300 is actually a pretty good sum of money for most US cities, because your food and your housing is already paid for. So that $300 is for you to do, like, to go to the movies or to buy, a warm scarf or something like that. I think there's also a ton of deals available for college students. So, once you have that student ID, don't be afraid to try to use it as much as possible. I don't think there's lots of free events that happen on campus too. I know that one way to get college students to go to events, there was like free pizza. Go enjoy the free pizza. There's like free gym on campus usually, so there's really not a lot that you would need to pay for off campus aside from things that you really, really want to do.
It's like your fun money.
Mm-hmm.
There is a question here that says, can we travel on the weekends? Will, do you want to take this one?
Sure. So here at World Learning, as well as the U.S. Department of State, encourages all of the Global UGRAD students to get out, travel, get to see the United States, really get to experience the culture. Traveling on weekends is not an issue. If you are leaving campus and you're staying over somewhere overnight, you will need to fill out a travel form that's located on the student portal, where you've been filling out most of your forms already. This is a requirement. It's just to let us know as your program team where you're staying, who you're staying with, how to get in contact with you in case of emergencies. And also one of the requirements of the program is that you should not be missing any academic classes for travel. So please, if you've got a long weekend, make sure that you are keeping it to the days that you're free and keeping it to days where you're not going to be interfering with your academic schedule.
Okay, thank you. Maybe along with that, as I look for another question that I saw there, somebody's asking if they can have visitors come see them on campus. I can take that one. Okay, yes, you're welcome to have, if you have friends in the US or people visiting, yes, they can visit you while you're on campus. The one thing that you do want to check with, when you're in your dorm, all of you guys will be living in a dormitory with other US students and international students. On each hall, there's somebody called a resident advisor, an RA. That's a term that you should become very familiar with. Whenever you have problems or questions about dorm life, that's the person that you'll go to. Anyway, if you want to have a friend stay with you, I'm guessing they might not be allowed to stay in your dorm with you, but you can always ask your RA that. They might have different rules on different campuses. Otherwise, they might want to stay on a hotel near campus. But all that to say, you have free weekends. The way the US class schedule works, you might not have class every day, which is kind of nice. And so you might have that day to spend with your friends or visiting family, and that's totally fine. Here's a question that I don't know if someone wants to take about the maximum credits that a student can take on campus.
We can talk about it. Typically students in the United States take between 4 and 5 academic classes a semester. This might be very different than your home universities, and just the general structure of how some of these classes actually work may be a little bit different than what you're used to. Typically students take, that equals out to roughly about 12 to 15 credits. Again, this really depends on what your university kind of calls for, and if you do have any questions about what the maximum level is at your specific university, you're always more than welcome to reach out to your program team here, and we can help you, guide through how to register and how many classes you can register for.
Cool. Here's a question here. Is there any problems in charging our gadgets in the US? Do we need any adapters? That's a good technical question. Anybody have an answer?
Sure.
Yeah.
So you most likely don't need to get an adapter, but you will need to get, I can't quite remember the name of it, but it's a little device that you stick into the wall, and it has the same, it looks the same as the plugs from your country, and you can stick it into the wall from a transformer.
We also like to play charades a lot, so Lauren, just keep going.
But you can tell what I'm just But it's usually a circular device. Sometimes they're square, and it looks like a plug from your country. But on the other side, what would get plugged into the wall looks like an American.
An adapter, no?
Maybe that is an adapter.
Yeah,
So
and you can
perhaps
bring
it is
those,
called.
or you can get those while you're here.
Yeah. And you will need those to stick your device into the wall and charge it.
Great. There's a question here that I see. What do we do for sick or injured? Do we have medical insurance to cover the costs? That's a great question. Do you want to take this one?
Sure. So health insurance is another thing that the Global UGRAD program provides for you, or the Department of State provides your health insurance. So if there is any kind of, if you get really sick or you are injured, there will most likely be a university health center that you can go to. If not, you would be able to go to the doctor with that health benefit card. Most of the health stuff in the US, you would have a $25 copay if you went to a doctor, and then it would be $75 if you went to an emergency room. So that would be something to come out of your stipend. But you guys are all young and healthy, and accidents happen, and when they do, you would want to contact us, and we would help you through it.
If you're on any medications currently, you should bring them with you. Make sure that your doctor writes you a prescription for the 3 months or the 6 months or 9 months, however long you're in the US. Make sure that you bring those medications with you. That's what we call a pre-existing condition. And it'll be a lot harder to get your medications once you're here in the US. A question here is, I'd like to know a little bit more about ELT. What is it? ELT is an acronym that you might hear often. It stands for English Language Training. So for a handful of you coming for the fall semester, you will be taking a semester of ELT. That is just going to be an intensive English language program, from reading, writing, public speaking, just all these things to help you prepare to succeed in an academic spring course load. So those of you, you'll know if you're an ELT student or not. You've probably already been told this by the embassy and maybe your World Learning staff. So if you are one of those students, your first semester here will be really intensive English, helping you prepare for spring semester when you'll be taking regular academic courses with American students. Does that cover it? Is that ELT? Okay. There's a question here that says, if we have a problem with our roommate, is there any possibility to change the room? Which I think is a great opportunity for us to talk about dorm life in the US. We've all been there, so I think any of us can speak to that. If anybody wants to.
Lauren, Mr.
Sure. So, excuse me, in an American university, you'll have a roommate. It might be an American roommate, or it might be an international roommate, and maybe you'll have one roommate, and maybe you'll have two roommates. Maybe you'll even have more than that. But you will be sharing your room, and hopefully you'll get along fine with your roommate. In most cases, you do get along really well with your roommates. And in fact, sometimes your roommate ends up being your best friend. And you can make some really deep friendships that way. If you don't get along well with your roommate, your resident advisor, RA, who was mentioned before, is there to help in situations like that. So don't hesitate to talk to your resident advisor if you are having trouble communicating with your roommate or settling disagreements. They're there to help the both of you work things out, because usually you can work it out and things will get better. And also, open communication is really helpful. Make sure you're communicating with your roommate. If something is bothering you, let them know, because maybe they don't realize that. So always remember, the RA is there to help you with any of issues that you might enter with your roommate. But usually, my roommate from college became one of my best friends, and usually you will have a really great experience with your roommate.
I think roommate issues are common on U.S. campuses, or at least kind of an initial getting to know each other that doesn't go perfectly. So that the resident assistants, or the RAs that Roya talked about earlier, are a really good resource, and there's usually a process by which you would need to do some mediation and some talking before there would be any chance of changing rooms.
Where was it? Will, hi, are we allowed to do an internship in our field of study?
Hello.
It doesn't actually say hi, Will, I added that.
Okay. So I'm sorry, it's difficult for me to read. So in terms of internships, a lot of we don't say no, we don't say yes, but it's a matter of case by case. Again, you will have a lot of things going on probably on campus. You'll have classes, you'll have, readings outside of class, you'll be in clubs, you'll be active on campus, you'll be doing your community service, and we always welcome students if they're interested in pursuing an internship. It's always a great opportunity, and just keep that in mind, keep your time management in mind. One thing that we do not allow is students to be gainfully employed or making money while on the program. You are more than welcome to accept an internship and talk with your advisor here at World Learning, as well as your advisor on campus. But we just need to make sure that you are not making any money while on the program.
Here's a popular question that has a very quick answer, so we'll go through it. Can we extend our stay in the US after the program?
No.
Okay, next.
Just to give you a little bit more, you guys have to come on the day that we book your flight, and you have to leave on the same day that we book your flight to go home.
Yes. Here's a popular question. It says, when we arrive in the US, is there going to be somebody waiting for us at the airport? Yes, there will be somebody. Sometimes it will be staff from the international student office on campus. Sometimes it'll be a taxi driver who we've already paid for, who has your name on a card, or a shuttle driver that has your name that says, are you, who is this? Oh, Hen, so there will be somebody at the airport for you. And again, those instructions will come 1 to 2 weeks prior leaving Jordan. From wherever you're leaving your home country, you'll receive an email telling you exactly who is meeting you at the airport, and how long it's going to take you to get to campus and all of that. So all of those details will soon come. Unfortunately, it's not going to be us picking up from the airport because we're in DC while you all are going to be arriving to really amazing cities and states across our country.
You're right, Jordan. Good night. You'll get that email from me.
Oh, here's an interesting question for one of us. Regarding travel, which are the best ways to move around the U.S.?
Wait, it says is hitchhiking?
Is hitchhiking an option?
Hitchhiking is generally not done in the U.S. and even
in the movies.
Yeah. Is it? It's not really safe.
No.
Please don't do it. It really the best way to get around the U.S. I think really depends on where you are located in the first place. I think a lot of people do use cars, so make friends. There's also a lot of cheap bus options, especially in like the New England states. There's trains, I think, on both of the coasts. Yeah, the trains are nice. There's lots of different ways. I think once you get to campus and start exploring with the other international students or with your American roommate, you'll find whatever works best for that particular region.
Great. Hello, how do we do our community service? Does the host university select it for us, or does World Learning, or how do we choose it? That's a good question.
I can take that one. No, we don't choose your community service for you, and neither does your university. It's up to you to choose what you want to do. So if you have a special interest, you can look for community service opportunities in that special interest. Some common ways that students do their community service are volunteering at animal shelters, volunteering at soup kitchens, spending time at nursing homes. There are a lot of different options.
Cool. And we want you to pick something that you are really interested in. 20 hours is not a huge time commitment, but it's big enough that you should be doing something that you're interested in. And hopefully it'll be something that inspires you to do, to continue that community service work when you go home.
One thing that I wanted to add on community service is that for the 20-hour requirement of community service, you don't have to dedicate all 20 hours to one specific task. You are more than welcome to volunteer with multiple different organizations. And we want you to go out and experience as much as you possibly can.
Yes, sir. I saw this a couple of times. The question is, I heard at PDO that we'll need our acceptance letter from the university when we arrive in the U.S. when they go through immigration with the customs official. I can take that one. It's not necessary to have your admissions letters. The things that you will need will write in your arrival email, but it's things like you want to make sure visa is intact in your passport. You want to make sure you have your DS 2019. That's the sheet that's like a regular piece of paper, and it has one of World Learning Advisor's signatures on there. It's what you took to your visa interview. These are the things that are going to be really important. Having an admissions letter is helpful. In specific cases like this, if you're specifically concerned, feel free to email your World Learning Program Advisor, and if we have that admissions letter for you, we'll go ahead and send that to you. Some of you might have already received yours in your pre-departure orientation packet. For others, we hadn't received your acceptance letter yet, and that's why you haven't yet received it. So send your program advisor an email requesting it if that's something that's on your mind, and if we have it, we'll send that right to you. All right. What if I have trouble in the airport at the moment of entrance? Who can I call, or what should I do?
So Noemi, you would call, you'll have several phone numbers with you in that arrival email that we keep referencing. You could either call your host university contact, or you could call Bethany or Chris. They'll also be able to help you, but I doubt that you will have problems. We do a lot of preparation so that you're going through, you've got all the paperwork ready, everything's going to go really smoothly.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question. It says, can I claim for reimbursement when I buy my books? I'll take that one. Can I take it? Amy had mentioned that you will be receiving a check from us when you arrive on campus, and in that check will include, for academic students, a $250 book allowance. For ELT students, you also receive a book allowance. It's a little bit less. But with that money, we want you to use that to purchase all of your required books for the semester. You'll know what your required books are when you go to the first day of class and you receive your syllabus. It'll list out what your required books and what your recommended books are, perhaps. Please use your money to buy required books. We encourage you to go find used books at the bookstore or Amazon.com if you've heard of that. It's a great way to get books pretty quickly. So we recommend that. Most of you hopefully will be able to purchase less than $250. If you end up spending more than $250 on required books, yes, we will reimburse you. There's a little bit of a process for that. That will let you know. It's make sure to keep all of your receipts. We have to see all of your syllabus that shows that they're required, and there's a quick form that you have to fill out. But to make a long story short, if you spend more than $250 on required books, yes, we will reimburse you. All right. This is kind of going along with that. People are asking if the question is, will you also cover other study assessment tools like scientific calculators or other tools that are required for classes?
If they're required, and it's one of your major courses, then yes, we will. We don't want there to be any hindrance to you doing really, really well academically.
In case there might be somebody new that's hopped on, we run over this, but we're happy to answer it again. The question is, for you to approve our courses, do we send them to you via email, or how does that work?
Go for it, Will.
I can take this one. Sure. So as we talked about a little bit before, in your first week, you will be most likely registering for courses, attending some of the first courses that you, the classes that you've registered for, and really getting a feel for what you're interested in and seeing if there's anything. This is what university typically calls the add drop period. So there's going to be a lot of fluctuation and change in not only your schedule, but possibly other student schedules. So some classes might be opening up, some classes might be closing, and just to kind of come back to the question, it was a matter of how do we let them know? So once you've finalized your class schedule after the add drop period, you will need to let the World Learning team know what classes you intend to take and what classes you're going to be taking for the rest of the semester. One of those is going to be an American Studies course, which I could turn it over to one of the other team members to talk a little bit more about. And we also require that you take 2 courses in your field of study.
Yeah, so it's actually not via email that you're letting us know. The submission form is online. The same way that you applied for the UGRAD program, we'll be using that student portal. You'll become very familiar with it during your semester here. And one of the first things that you're going to be filling out on there is called the course approval form. So that is how you'll be letting us know.
And we'll talk more about it during your arrival orientation too.
This question always comes up. The question is, will I be able to transfer my credit to my university once I'm back home?
So World Learning does not get involved with any kind of transfer process that you will need to do between your host university and your home university. That's up to you. So it's up to whether or not your home university wants to accept those credits. So the answer is maybe.
Maybe. Here's a question about travel. Do we have to inform you only if we leave the city we're settled in? So I think the question is, when do they let us know where they're traveling?
So excuse me, if you're staying within your city or just leaving campus, then you don't have to let us know. If you are going to be outside of your city and if you're going to be gone overnight, then that's when you have to let us know. And then there's a travel form that you'll fill out, and then you'll submit that, and then we'll see it, and we can approve your travel.
I'm going to see if we can hit a couple birds with one stone. It looks like there are a few questions about life as an alumni, Fulbright, master's programs, and we should even throw in our different grant processes and applications that happen. So let's talk a little bit about alumni life.
I can do alumni stuff.
Cool.
First of all, you guys aren't even here yet. Come on. So I think the questions, as Roy said, it's been about master's degrees, Fulbright awards. As a UGRAD student, you are perfectly eligible to apply for those things. But I think what's kind of coming up is that there is a 2-year home residency requirement that comes along with your J1 visa status and the UGRAD program. That 2-year home residency rule does not mean that you cannot come back to the US to visit, to see friends, to study. It does mean that you cannot come back to the US in an immigrant capacity for at least 2 years. And I know that gets it's a little confusing to think about it now, like non-immigrant versus immigrant. All you have to know is that you are eligible to come back for a master's degree. You are eligible to apply for Fulbright. Your US Embassy may have preferences as to whether they want to give a Fulbright to a UGRAD student who has already received Department of State funding, or whether they want to look for another student who hasn't yet had the opportunity to study in the United States. But we have several UGRADs who have actually gone on to get Fulbrights, so I think it's safe to say that you can.
All right, this question got 12 likes. Do we need to bring with us blankets, an iron, pillow, or things like that? That's a good question. You know, when we advise students on what to bring, we could talk about that too, but we say don't bring too much. You're gonna come here and find everything that you need in whatever city or town you're in. Some schools will provide like bed sheets and pillows, but others you'll have to purchase that. But that is why in part of your first check that you'll receive once you arrive, there's $100 in what we call a settling in allowance. And that money is meant exactly for those sorts of things that help you kind of cozy into your room, to buy posters, an extra pillow, a comfier blanket, and things like that. So you don't have to bring those things, you can purchase them upon arrival.
The pillow takes up a lot of room in the suitcase. I wouldn't want to bring one. But your first night, your room may be a little sparse.
Yeah, and this could be a fun time too. Maybe each of us can talk a little bit about when we studied abroad, what are things that we brought or what we've heard from other Global UGRAD students saying, oh, I wish I would have brought blank to the US with me. Really want to give it a go. Sit down. Yeah.
Okay. So things that I would recommend to bring, I would say that bringing something from your home country is always something great to have. A lot of times there's international nights, or there's different types of celebrations on campus. So bringing a flag or bringing a national costume is always a great idea. Me personally, again, I don't really bring much when I travel. So I would recommend definitely, as Roya had pointed out before, leaving some space in your suitcase for things that you might actually buy here in the US and bring back with you.
When I studied abroad, I took things that were kind of sentimental, or that I would miss if I didn't have them for a year. I think clothes are definitely something that you want to bring. Some clothes, you don't want to have to like run out and buy a whole new wardrobe as soon as you arrive. But the clothes that you might have at home might not be perfect for the climate in which you're in. So you can get those, and there's lots of thrift stores in the US that are great places to get cheap clothing. I took things like a stuffed animal that my roommate had given me that I could like take pictures, so it was like we were still together. I think Roya mentioned it earlier this morning, taking a journal is also a great thing so that you can reflect and write about the things that are going on during your Global UGRAD program. Also, maybe do a little research to see if there's something that is absolutely not available here that you really, really want. Like, for instance, I'm very tall, and in where I lived, they did not have shoes that would fit me. So there was like not a single shoe in that country that would ever be my size. So I needed to take lots of shoes.
I don't think it's been said yet. Maybe bring a flag. People love when you bring your flag, and then when you go to Disneyland or you go to a different famous spot, I think it's really fun to just show your flag and have someone take a picture of that for use, because it's bringing a little bit of your home to the U.S. I think one of the most special things that you bring is that you bring your culture with you when you come to the U.S. So to be able to share that with things like a flag, maybe you're holding the flag in front of the Statue of Liberty, and there's somebody else from your home country that's like, hey, that's where I'm from. Or people might say, what flag is that? And that's your opportunity to tell them a little bit about where you're from.
Another thing very similar to the flag that you'll want to bring with you would be traditional clothes. If you have traditional clothes from your home country, there might be cultural presentations at your university, or when we bring you to DC, there might be an event that you'll want to wear your traditional clothing to. And I'm not sure if this is mentioned, but I know a lot of us are definitely fans of taking a journal with you. So you can write about what you're experiencing, you can collect your memories that way, and also writing can help you process things that are going on so you can make the most of your experience. And another suggestion that I would have is don't take your favorite towel, or don't take maybe your favorite pajamas. You're going to probably collect a lot of things that you're going to want to take home with you. So if you can leave something that takes up a lot of space, like a towel, and bring that, donate that, or donate your pajamas, it helps free up some space in your suitcase.
I have seen students trying to pack to go home, and it is amazing.
Kind of funny.
It's these huge suitcases that they brought that were nearly empty, and they're trying to shove in presents for everybody, and you know, this new like university sweatshirt that they're like, I have to take this home. So yeah, space is at a premium.
This question says, how many courses can I take? I think we've reviewed that quickly before, but to say again, typically we're going to strongly encourage you to stick to 12 credits. That's full time. That's going to keep you busy. That'll allow you to take your U.S. Studies course, 2 courses in your major, and then 1 sort of elective course we like to call. That's what we would love for you to do. For some universities, that's actually all that you can take. We have agreements with different universities of how many credits that students can take. Just like when we were in school, it kind of depends on wherever you go. So for most of you, you should just expect to register for 12 credits. That's what we recommend. If you have a special circumstance and you need to work that out with your World Learning Program advisor, email them separately, please. Here's a question of, what does the cultural presentation imply? What do you expect us to do while we're in the U.S.?
Okay, I can jump in. Yes. We've had students in the past who have done sang. We've had students who've done national dances. We've had students who've done cooking presentations. They've done actual PowerPoint presentations, and there's a wide range of different things, and usually it depends on the host university. I would say that a lot of times there's international nights, there's different festivals, and even in the communities surrounding the universities, there's a lot of opportunities to share your culture with, you know, younger high school or elementary school children. There's Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, which are, you know, smaller organizations for children in the community, and these are all opportunities to, you know, share something about, you know, where you come from, and you know, what your culture is like, and you know, the language that you speak.
And you guys are all lucky that you're coming in the fall, because it is also International Education Week. And there will most definitely be events on campus that try to showcase your culture.
Cool. I'm going to answer one question really quickly before jumping to another one, and it's a question of, my university hasn't contacted me. Am I allowed to contact them myself? Yeah, you know, if your U.S. host institution has not emailed you, some have, some haven't. They all go at their own pace. Feel free to contact your World Learning Program advisor, and we can give you the email address for who will be your advisor in the U.S. And they can start talking to you about course registration and other things that might be helpful for you. So yes, Vanessa, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll let you know who your academic advisor is. A question here that I don't know if somebody wants to answer is, can we borrow a bicycle during our stay in the U.S.? That's a fun question.
I love biking, so I'm excited that you do too. Some campuses have bikes for rent or for, like you can rent them hourly or you can rent them for the semester, but it really depends on the campus. If not, there's lots of sites where you could probably purchase one cheaply.
I also want to mention that I do see some questions on here. There's one about Panama credit transfer. There's one here about someone has a specific internship in mind that they want to do after the program. For these sort of individual questions, I think we are going to ask, or I am going to ask that you please email your World Learning Program advisor. That'll probably be a little bit more appropriate for them to talk to you directly about your specific case. And we'll just answer some more general questions here. And one of those is, I think someone just wants us to review what exactly is covered by the Global UGRAD scholarship.
So the scholarship covers your flight to the US, your tuition, your meal plan, your housing, your health benefits, your books, and then there's the settling in allowance. It's yours to spend how you want, and your stipend, which is also yours to spend as you want. So your stipend is pocket money. That is your fun money. Everything else is pretty much taken care of.
My eyes are starting to blur. Here's an interesting question. Can we promote projects to help our communities back home, I think, while in the US? That's really awesome. I think, you know, one of the reasons that you were selected to come onto the Global UGRAD program is because you are a person of impact in your home communities, in your universities. People kind of look to you and say, oh, she's a leader, or she's doing great things, or will do great things in the community. So while you're in the US, I hope that you are gathering ideas for things that you think could help things back home. In the same way, please let your US communities know if you have an idea from what you've seen back home that will work well in the US. It's an exchange of ideas, exchange of knowledge, strategies and tips. Network with people while you're here. Let people know about projects in your community that you're interested in doing. Promoting them is totally fine. If you mean with money and things, I think that, you know, contact your World Learning Program advisor and we'll work with you on that. When you are an alumni of State Department programs and World Learning programs and you are back home, there will be various ways for you to apply for grant money to help fund those ideas that you might have for your communities back home.
One thing to just add on to that, in today's day and age of you know, social media and just a lot more global communication, a lot of alums, at least I know from last year, got great exposure for, you know, NGOs or, you know, organizations that they know back home, and just, you know, spreading the word, you know, talking about their mission statement, and, you know, just kind of gaining a little bit more exposure to, you know, different issues going on in their home communities through blogs, you know, through a variety of different social media outlets. So that is certainly something that, you know, you could look at.
Yeah, and if you have an idea, let's say that you're coming to the US and you're going to, see, one of these schools, let's say you're going to the University of Missouri. If you have an idea for things to help the community in Missouri, that's really cool too. You can do your community service that way. If you are an environmentalist specialist and you get to campus and you notice there needs to be more recycle bins or whatever, or you have an idea, put those ideas into action. I think the places of greatest change and movement and progress in the US are on university campuses. So you'll be in a good place where ideas are always burgeoning and really exciting things are happening. Another question about the dorms that somebody has is there a specific time that you have to return to your dorms in the evening?
No. Well, I know that because I know that you in particular are going to Illinois State. There are certain, my university, there was a 3 a.m. curfew that everyone was supposed to be back in their dorms. No one really followed it, but that's something that you would find out from your resident advisor when you're in the dorm.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times I think dorms might have rules like if it's a women's dorm, like men can't come over at a certain time or switched around like that. So I've heard schools that have those sorts of rules. We're seeing a lot more questions about how do I contact my academic advisor. Once again, just reach out to your World Learning team if you haven't heard from them and that you really want to. Some of you have questions about travel days that I see, maybe conflicts with when your final exam schedule is in the US. If you have found that your ticket might be different than what you think your final exam schedule is, again, you can ask your World Learning team. We did notice though that maybe when you were sent the dates for your travel, those might have been tentative dates, and your actual flight itinerary, the days might be a little bit different. So you can just probably wait until you get your arrival email when that official flight itinerary will be sent to you. And those will be your official dates, and those should be just fine because we've been working with your universities in the US to make sure that you'll be here for your final exam. We wouldn't make you go home before tests. We want you to take your tests.
It's part of that whole academic excellence thing. We want you to be really successful while you're here. And I think our time is starting to wind down a little bit, so maybe we'll just take a couple more questions.
Great. This is asking about a cell phone. Would you recommend us to get a cell phone? I heard that programs can vary, cell phone services can vary in price, it can be expensive. Would you think it'd be a good investment to get a cell phone here?
I think that really depends on how you plan to communicate. There's a lot of cell phones can be expensive. However, I think you can also find plans that are quite affordable. It just depends on how much you want to research. I would say you're probably going to want one if for no other reason than to be able to text. That's pretty much how everyone communicates, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I think especially coming in fall, there will be a lot of new students coming to campus, a lot of international students. Just, you know, you might be the only Global UGRAD student on your campus. Well, you'll probably be a small group of Global UGRAD students on your campus, but there's going to be like tens of hundreds of other international students asking the same questions as you. A lot of times it'll be cell phone providers who come to campus and try to give you like cheaper rates on phones because they understand your situation of only being here temporarily. And having to do with communication, one thing that I think really want to encourage you to do is come up with a communications plan with your family before you leave the country. So let them know, I will call you once a week, or I will call you as soon as I get to my dorm in the US. Make a plan with them, or else they're going to be contacting us and saying, have you heard from my son? Have you heard from my daughter? And we can do that, but I think it'd be a lot easier if you could just contact them. So make sure that you set up a plan so they know where you are, that they know you're safe, and tell them they have nothing to worry about. How many more questions do you think we can do here?
Is there a good wrap-up one?
Let's see. A lot about money.
You guys are going to be fine.
You'll be fine. Here's the question that if I went through a serious situation, you know, an issue of racism, or maybe like I'll add like a medical situation or anything bad, or on the other hand, I'm going to say if anything really awesome happens, if you run into a celebrity, if you win an award, what should you do?
I think this goes back to kind of what our role is here at this table and us being your safe space. So if there's something that does make you uncomfortable, we're here to talk about it. And I don't think it's really hard to generalize about, you know, what would happen if you experience racism on the campus, because it would be like, how did you experience that? Like what was the person's intention? Like, was it, and there's just so many other questions. Any health emergency, absolutely you want to contact us, and also your international student advisor on campus. We'll make sure that you're taken care of and your health benefit will click in. It will be great. For anything else that's maybe just a little more that's troubling you, that's what we're here for. We're here to talk it out, figure out how to deal with the situation.
Great. There's that. I don't know if there are any wrap-up thoughts, words of advice.
Come with a really open mind. I think that's my biggest piece of advice. It's hard not to get a lot of expectations, especially when you're studying and you're expecting this and looking for that, but just come excited to learn and with a lot of questions, and leave all those preconceived notions behind and just experience it. It's going to be really, really fun, and I think the semester will be it'll be challenging in ways that you don't expect. And I don't know what they are. I just think that neither of us expect them right now.
Yeah, I think my advice is, I would say, expect great things, not specific things. So know that when you come here, really, really good things are going to happen, but they might not be exactly what you picture them to be in your head. So come with a picture of something good, but with not hard lines. It could be blurred and different than what you expect. And I think too, just keeping in mind that you'll get how much you put into it. So if you come into it with a positive attitude, come into it knowing that there's going to be challenges, but that you can overcome them, knowing that things might not be the easiest, but they will be good, I think they will end up that way. And communicate with us often. Again, we're here. We want to catch you just as you're starting to struggle, not when you're already really in the middle of it. Let us know, communicate, so that we can catch you and pick you back up and be there for you.
I would just say there's no good or bad, there's just different sometimes. I think this was something that I always picked up living abroad. It's go in, as Amy had said, be open-minded, be flexible. There's a lot of opportunities, and one thing I would also say is stay busy and stay active. Time will fly by, it will feel like, and just try to make as many friendships and try to just learn more about your university, where you're studying, and yeah, I mean, I think that this is just a great opportunity in general, and you'll look back and you'll say, this is an amazing experience. So we wish you the best.
And then again, sort of echoing Will's thought about there's no good, there's no bad, there's only different. Don't compare your experiences to the experiences of anyone else. I think there's a quote like, comparison is the thief of joy. Your experience is still going to be great in a different way, but you can't compare. And then a really good way to get into things once you arrive is join a club, join an organization right away, get involved right away, figure out what you like and stick with it.
Agreed.
And with that, I guess we'll say farewell. In the next few weeks, you will get your arrival email. Please feel free to follow up with us if you have any lingering questions. Continue to participate in Opal and enjoy these last few weeks with your families and eat all the food you want.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming today. Congratulations again on being a Global UGRAD student, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.